Hello again, everyone. We are here with you live in Venice with the second edition of Hyper-Annotation in the 59th edition of Venice Biennale in front of French Pavilion with the amazing artist Sedira. Zineb, thank you so much for talking to us. And I wanted to ask you more about the work that you're presenting in the French Pavilion. It seems that you bring together many things, from biography, from like different variations of historic accounts and realities, and so many things are entangled. How do you navigate through all of that?
For me, it was from the outset very important to bring my own personal history with a political history, or the history of cinema and of a very specific period of time, which is the 60s, 70s, which was an anti-colonial period, I guess. There's a lot of countries where decolonizing themselves are about to, and some just did, like Algeria, for example. So, because I was born in the 60s also, it makes sense, and I'm Algerian of origin, grew up in France, it makes sense to talk about politics and the history of anti-colonization with my own history of growing up in France. Also my love for cinema, because I discovered the cinema in the 60s with my dad. And to bring all those elements together, the political and the personal, is always something that I find very interesting and very exciting. For me, it's also a way to talk about politics. For me, I believe it's the best way to talk about politics. Is to always talk about it within the personal, never accuse, but always say, I believe. So the I is very important, hence why I'm so much in the film in terms of my story, but also physically in the film. It's looking at the idea of fiction in film, of documentary, of trickery or lies or reality. So it's playing along with all. And in the film, when you walk in the pavilion now, which is being transformed into a set design, you have all those ideas mixed up together. And as you come in, you feel you are in a stage in a cinema, or participating in that cinema. The project is also very much about friendship, because I'm talking about that moment in the 60s, 70s when there was a lot of intellectual and political solidarities and friendship. And a lot of intellectuals and artists and filmmakers wanted to work together, often for kind of political reasons. And for my film, I invited also a lot of friends to come and participate in my project. So it's very much a family project also, because there is a lot of humor also, a lot of self-derision, that's it really.
This side of playfulness in all that, like it's all serious matters coming together, but you somehow have this playing around, playfulness, having things with humor and fun. It's not
like I was saying, for me it's important when you talk about politics, or when you talk about very serious matter, and perhaps some very personal and quite tough things, because you hear me talking about some difficult stuff, to also look at it as something that might become something richer at the end, because at the end you can always turn things around. So I believe that, although it was very complicated and difficult at times, it's also a very rich identity and experience that I've gone through, And the idea of the jokes and the fun and the self-derision, laughing at me, laughing at my own history, is also very important. But the message also is that things have not shifted, We were in a period of time in the 60s that kind of was interesting, it fell through, and we still haven't learned from the past. We're still struggling with racism, with colonializations and all those things. Those political ideas haven't shifted, they're still there, and perhaps they're even worse, who knows. So it's about also looking back. You need to bring back the past in order to look at it, and to move better forward. So this is really what I'm trying to do with this project.
Maybe one last question. I also wanted to know how COVID have put difficulties in your way of work, and because you work it's a big arrangement, and you work with many archival materials, and how and now what it means to be back in these venues like this in Venice, in galleries.
Well, yes, it has been difficult because accessing archive during lockdown was just a nightmare. So it was each time it opened up a bit, the traveling situation But I wasn't able to go back to Algeria at all because the borders were totally closed. But I was lucky enough to have done a lot of the research about Algerian films well before the COVID. So I had a lot of material in my computer, and at home. So all I did as soon as I could travel is to go to Paris and to go to Italy and do the research. And Italy has a wealth of archives around that cinema, and they were very generous with opening them. So for me, it was just fantastic. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for
Thank you.
talking to us.